All right, you guys, example 2. Let's get going. So on example 2, some things are a little different. So they've given us the algebraic rule, and they've given us 2 points of the preimage, but only 1 point in the image. So we can't really plot anything yet, but using our rules, we can start to gather some of the points that we need. So, looking at our first rule, so my original x, y points are going to transform into y negative x. So x and y will trade places, they'll swap spots, and then your original x or your new y's will change signs. Okay, so let's think about what transformation has the rule y negative x? I'm trying to think. Oh man, that's right, you guys. You're so smart. Like, I couldn't even figure it out, and you were able to tell me. Nice job, you guys. So when it's y negative x, that is a 90 degrees clockwise rotation or a 270 counterclockwise rotation. So the first thing that's going to happen, our points will rotate 90 degrees clockwise. And then after that, so remember, this rule picks up from here. So we're adding 5 to our current x's, which my current x is y, because x and y switched. And then we're going to add 5 to my current y, which my current y is negative x. So we just added 5 to each of these points. So what is the transformation when we're adding things, or adding 5 to the x and y? Is that a translation, rotation, or reflection? We add or subtract things to our x or y. That is a translation. So I know we're going to be translating. We add 5 to our x value, which I know this is confusing because it says y, but remember x and y switch, so y is now sitting in the x spot. We add 5 to our x value. That will go, which way will that go? Holy hot dog. It would go right 5. You guys are always so smart. And then if we add 5 to the y value, that will go up 5 spaces. So the next transformation, technically what's going on, we're adding 5 to our current x and our current y, which means it will go 5 units right and 5 units up. So we can go ahead and fill out our verbal. So given triangle ABC, I'm going to call my points ABC. You don't have to. Just like in the last one, I called my points ABC, but you don't have to. Anyway, so I'm going to call them ABC. So given triangle ABC, rotate the figure 90 degrees clockwise or 270 counterclockwise, whatever floats your boat, and then translate the figure right and up 5. So there we go. Okay, so since I have 2 of my pre-image points, I'm going to apply both of these rules to my pre-image, because if we can go forward to get our image points, that is much easier than starting from the image point and going backwards. Okay, so let's start with these two, since that's a little bit easier to tackle. Okay, so starting here, we're going to do the y negative x first. So that's what we're going to do first. So I've already prepared it because my current, or my starting x will go negative, which is my current y, because this is in the y spot. Okay, so these will flip-flop. So I'm going to write my x's over here. So my 0, negative 7 will go over there, bam. And my 0 and 0 will go over here. So my original x's will change signs. So 0, it will technically be negative 0, but negative 0 doesn't exist. So it'll just be 0. And then negative 7 will transform into positive 7, which remember, a double negative will be a positive 7. Okay, so then after that, we're going to take our most recent points, which are these, and we're going to add 5 to the x and y spot. So I'm going to set that up. We're going to be adding 5 to the x and y. So my current x's are 0, 0, and my current y's are 0, positive 7, because that double negative is going to make it positive. So 0, and 7. Okay, so let's think here. 0 plus 5 is 5, and 0 plus 5 is 5. So my first point will be 5, 5, and my next point will be 0 plus 5 is 5, and 7 plus 5 is 12. So my final image points, which again, our first image, we throw in the single primes, and my final image point, since it's our second transformation, we throw on a double prime. If we were to do another transformation, I would add on a triple prime. Okay, so these are now my 3 final image points. So guess what? I can graph those things now. There we go. Now the tricky thing is going to be getting our other points for our our first image and then for our pre-image, because we have to kind of go backwards. So there's two ways to think about this. Okay, so in order to get from here to here, to get from my purple points to my green points, we had to add 5 to get here. So what do you think we had to do to get to our purple points now if we work backwards? We do have to subtract 5. So 0 minus 5 is negative 5, and 12 minus 5 is 7. So my points are negative 5, 7. Now, what I'm going to do is a little different. So go ahead and put, like, if you like that, if that made sense, I would go ahead and write how you got to your purple points, which is by doing 0 minus 5 and 12 minus 5. So your purple point, your C prime, is going to be negative 5, and then if we subtract 5, will be 7. Okay, so, which let me just double check. Yeah, negative 5, 7. What I'm going to do might confuse you, so if that is making perfect sense, that's what I would do. Okay, now what I thought was, well, to get from here to here, I had to add my purple points by 5. So I thought, well, what could I add to 5 to get 0? Well, I could add negative 5 to 5 to get 0. And I thought, well, what can I add to 5 to get 12? Well, that would be 7. So I kind of thought of it that way. So I know that my purple points have to be negative 5, 7. Because if I add 5 to negative 5, I get 0. And if I add 7 to 5, I get 12. So my C prime is going to be the points negative 5, 7. So again, what I'm about to do might look confusing. So if that's making sense, just know that this point is 0 and then 12. Or I'm sorry, not 0 and 12. Sorry. This point is negative 5 and 7. Okay? So just brace yourself. Okay. So I know my point is supposed to be negative 5, 7. But I was kind of thinking about with this negative thing, I was kind of preparing myself for when we do the algebraic rule, we flip-flop and change the sign of our original pre-image. So I kind of set it up like that. So I knew that to go from my pre-image point to this point, there's going to be a negative right here to change the sign. So I'm going to fill in my 7. This is supposed to be a positive 7. We know this is negative 5. We know this is supposed to be positive 7. So if I have a negative here, I can't just put a 7 or it'd be negative 7. So I'm going to put a double negative here because a double negative will transform that into a positive 7. Just like here, this double negative 7 turned into a positive 7. So even though I know this is 7, I just made it a double negative to kind of prepare myself for going here. Okay? And then this value doesn't get changed because when we do our rule going from the pre-image to our first image, okay, the original y doesn't change. Okay? So now let's think this through for a second. So I need to get my original pre-image points, which since we have our first image points, if you wanted to graph those now, you could. Okay? But now let's think about how to get to our original pre-image points. Well, to get from here to here, originally, we flip-flopped x and y. So 0 hopped to y, and the negative 7 hopped over here. And then remember, I threw the negative in front because of this. So we flip-flopped the numbers and changed the signs. So guess what? Or we changed the signs of only the original x. Okay, so only the original x changes signs. So be careful. Okay? So which one of these values do you think was the original, is going to be our x when we flip-flop them? Because currently, these points are the flip-flop version, is what I'm going to call it, of our pre-image. So when we have to flip-flop them back, what value do you think is going to be in the x? The negative 5 or the negative 7? Or like the double negative 7, I guess, in this case. When we flip-flop them, it'd be the double negative 7, which is positive 7, and negative 5. But remember, when we do a 90 degrees clockwise rotation, the original x should change signs. Okay, so when we were in our purple point, the original x we were saying was this positive 7. That's the original x. So when these two flip-flop, the 7 and negative 5, the sign of the original x will have to change. So this is going to be negative 7, negative 5. Okay, now again, I know that was a little confusing. I promise the next two aren't this bad. It's kind of hard to work backwards. But again, so if we kind of think of it going forward, Again, to go to my pre-image points of my image, these two flip-flop. So -5 hopped over here, and -7 hopped over here. But since I put the negative in front, it's a double negative, so it changes sign. So the original x changes sign. -7 turned to +7 when it flip-flopped. Okay, so that's why this ended up being the -7. Okay, and now that we have our 3 points, guess what? Bam, we can graph that thing. So after we rotated 90 degrees, after we rotated 90 degrees, then you could, which this is kind of confusing, because technically we went backwards. But anyway, so the pink one rotated 90 degrees and then translated. I know when we did this, we worked backwards. So originally we plotted the image and then translated, then rotated. But technically what's going on, if we start from the pre-image, you rotate that bad boy here and then move it up there. So pretty nice, you guys. All right, awesome job, you guys.